this down for a second so it doesn't.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Say only what you need from it. The transition from not being live to being live, seamless. Vibing to the music.
Oh yeah.
That's what we should have, a speaker playing loud enough that we can hear it, but the mics don't pick it up. We are live. Can you test audio? Perfect. Should be good.
Because
We can turn it up here for a second.
okay, just turn it up for a second.
Vibe into the music. Sounds good.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
I just broke my headset.
We just want to go ahead and start the podcast. So that all of our catching up and stuff is on the recording as opposed to off the recording. Let's do it. Duh.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Technical Foul Podcast. As you can see, JP is not here today. You're just here with me, Jack Anderson, and to my left is Sanders Oakley, as always.
What's up, guys?
I guess if you're just watching the podcast, you can't see, but I just told you, so either way, you know that JP is not here. He's doing his annual golfing tournament with his buddies for the turquoise jacket.
Yep.
He won it last year. He's trying to hold on to it. Said it's the first year all four guys have a chance.
Yeah.
Apparently he's not playing his best golf right now. I know he's talked about that on the show.
I'm a little nervous because he just lost the tournament they played like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So
I know he put in a lot. He got a lot of swings in, though, earlier this year. This week. So I know it's a thing of he got...
Probably this year, too. He probably did get swings in this year.
But I think it's a combination of him not playing as well, and I think his friends have gotten better.
Yeah.
So it should be fun for them. I'm glad he has the opportunity to do that. And because of that, I know we said on Wednesday that we would be doing the AFC South today. We're pushing that episode back to Wednesday, and we're just going to do a different show today.
Yeah.
We're going to cover just kind of some stuff that we like to talk about and just kind of record for y'all. We're going to talk about college baseball transfer portal stuff. We have a fairly sizable state fan base, and I'm sitting next to one of the biggest state fans I know. And they've had a great transfer portal season, so he's excited to gloat and brag about it to me.
Yep.
And we're going to get Tucker on the phone, who's called in multiple times before to talk about state baseball.
He's also a part of our most successful YouTube video.
So
we're excited to have him back.
Yeah. Apparently, we just need him on the show full time. We'll talk about MLB today.
If his segment goes viral again, it's kind of a sign.
Yeah. It's a bad look.
A weekly guest may have to become a thing.
We'll talk about the MLB since today is the last day before the All-Star break. So we don't talk about it much, but kind of a halfway check-in. We can look at our predictions, see how wrong we were. There's multiple I was very wrong on. But I'm excited to talk about it. I love baseball. It's not been a fun year for me as a Braves fan, but I still love it. And then we'll round it out talking about the Gold Cup and U.S. men's national team, so soccer. The Gold Cup finals tonight at 6 against our rivals Mexico.
Did you just check your watch that you're not wearing?
Yeah. Our Gold Cup, the game's at 6. And then I'll just talk about, news and kind of vibes around the team because we host the World Cup next year. So we're kind of in one of the most pivotal / biggest moments of the team's history. So where do we stand, I guess, as we kind of push forward into that moment? But let's get Tucker on the phone.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to talk about your weekend while I call him? I was hanging out with family. I know you had family in town.
Oh, yeah. Family came in town for the 4th of July. Got to launch fireworks, which was super fun. But, yeah, just a super relaxing weekend. Got to enjoy Friday off. And, yeah, I did not do that much. So
Huge. Yeah, I went and hung out with my fiance's family as well, and it was fun. And then went down to Jackson yet again. I think I've been there 7 or 6 of the 8 summer weekends so far.
It was really fun being the old person now because I got to light the fireworks. So when you're little, you have to stay away and the uncles get to go and you're like, I want to go light stuff on fire.
That's when they give you the sparklers. And hey.
And it's the sparklers are fun, but I want to launch the projectiles. Yeah. And so this year was the first time I got to be a member of the launching projectile party.
Massive.
And so, we did the classic, we had, the tubes that you, put in and light it. And so we would put up 2 or 3 tubes and try and launch multiple at once.
That's it. That's
me and my brother and my uncle. It was 3 of us that were in charge of that, and we had a blast.
Nice.
Trying to see how many we could set off at once safely.
You don't want to be one of those like viral Instagram videos where
Yeah,
it's like,
there was a lot of discussion about the average numbers of fingers in the country. And I kept trying to explain to my mother that the average number of fingers in the United States is under 10. And she kept going, but the majority of people have 10 fingers. And I was like, yes.
majority,
The majority of people do have
but
10
more
fingers.
people have less than 10 than have more than 10.
Correct, which brings the average down. And so then we were like, and also the average number of arms in the world is under 2.
Are we also talking about like if it's not a full finger, is that like 9.75, 9.5?
Oh, I would say
Like
that,
what counts?
I don't know.
Like my granddad's missing half of one of his fingers. Does that put him as like under 10?
I guess I would argue
or
like
but he's
functional.
it's still functional, so he's still
So I
10.
would say he still has 10
Okay.
fingers. Like if he can still use it to like grip, even if it's not like fully functional, I would say you still have
Gotcha.
10 fingers.
Cool.
So that was a fun conversation with my mom. She kept being like, but the majority of people have 2 arms. And I had to be like, Mama, I know, but the way averages work,
The median would be 10.
the median would be 10. So yeah. Let's get Tucker on here.
Yeah, I'll call him up right now.
I'm excited. I'm ready for another big video.
Yeah. Tucker, what's up? You're live.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Pretty good. I should get a round of applause, I think, for having your name right this time. It's a pretty big deal.
Fourth time's the charm.
Yeah, I didn't call you Tanner this
Well,
time.
he
or
got
whatever it
you.
was.
He got it right like the first 2 times, and then the third time, just out of the blue, is like, "Yeah, we're gonna have Tanner on the show." And me and JP were like,
Who?
"What? Who?"
Yeah. Tanner Medlin. But yeah, I mean,
Close enough.
you're kind of our state baseball guy, and since we're going to talk about it kind of spontaneously today, we figured we should have you on. Give Sanders a state fan to talk about it with instead of just talking to a brick wall. That'll be me.
Yeah.
I'll chime in a little bit, but this is mainly y'all. So, Sanders, you want to take it away? Kind of give your thoughts. I know you're not talking just about state baseball. We're talking about winners and losers in the portal. But
So first, I want to hit up state baseball, talk about what starting lineup could look like, starting rotations could look like. I'll also do some other winners and losers. I've got 2 winners and 1 loser from around the country concerning baseball. So that'll be pretty fun. But yeah, so me and Tucker were texting earlier this afternoon about baseball, starting lineups, and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and give my projected what I would do, or not what I would do because I don't know the team as well as the coaches do, but what I would like to see happen. And then Tucker will kind of give his and we'll compare. So next year, the starting lineup, I would love to see. The issue is our outfield. Our outfield is absolutely stacked. So let me just read you some of the guys we have in that outfield that we got to figure out what we want to do. So we have Garrick Fry, Bryce Chance, Reed Stallman, Vitus Valencius, Aiden Teal, James Donnelly, and Blake Bevis. So that's 7 guys who could all start at outfield. Some of them could play other positions. I believe Garrick and Blake could both play first base, which we'll need to figure out and replace because Hunter Hines graduated. So if I would like to see a starting lineup, Garrick Fry, I think if he does not go to the MLB, which he is draft eligible, I'm awaiting next Sunday night very eagerly, but Garrick Fry has to lead off in my opinion. The dude hit 340 last year, and he hit 8 home runs, but he did not start seeing playing time until halfway through the season. That's when he started leading off. So he kind of took over halfway through the season and just constantly improved throughout that second half of the season. It hit 8 home runs. Multiple of them were like first pitch or first at bat. And there is not a better way to start a game than like your leadoff dude goes out there and just hits one out of the park. And you're like great. Like now we've got our second best hitter up. We're up 1-0 with no outs. Like that's a good feeling. Tucker, do you have thoughts? Leadoff, I'm going to assume you have Garrick just because he did so well last year, but maybe you've got a different guy up there.
So I don't have Garrick just because I don't think he's going to be here next year.
Okay.
But if he was here, would you have him batting leadoff?
Yeah, I probably would. It would either be him or Aiden Teal.
Okay.
Which is who I have there. And both of those guys are draft risks. So it could be a situation where if you just can get one of them here to lead off, then you take it.
Yeah.
Teal would be a center fielder, though, I think, for this team. Whereas Fry, you're probably looking at left field, maybe first base. maybe second base, but he'd have to put a lot of work in there. It was pretty ugly earlier this year.
I've got him at first,
So-
and then Gatlin playing at second because while Gatlin was not like a power hitter, he hit over 300, and his defense was really good. So I would leave Gatlin at second, but continue.
I have a different player at second, but we can get to that at the end because he's towards the bottom of my lineup.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. If Gehrig is here, he has to be in the lineup. Like, yeah, I know he's struggled defensively, but his bat is too good. You've got to find a way to get him in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely bat Gehrig leadoff if he's here as well. I think that's the move.
Aiden Teal, let me pull up. I had his stats. He hit 317 last year with 7 home runs, so a pretty comparable home run count to Gehrig. He did field 1,000%. Or is that how you would say?
Yeah,
that?
he didn't make an error.
Yeah, so
which
0 errors is probably the better way to say that.
is an imperfect way to read defense, but you don't hate to see that.
Yeah, no, I would much rather have him with 0 errors than more than that. How would you? We don't have to get into how to interpret defense.
Well, if he has terrible range and he can't get to anything,
yeah,
like it doesn't
then
matter.
Not errors, I guess,
yes.
technically.
But if he's playing center field, I'm gonna imagine he doesn't have terrible range, and it's probably a good sign.
True. Go ahead, Tucker.
One other thing about Aiden Teal is I believe this was the first year he was a full-time position player. That he came in as a pitcher and position player.
Really?
His older brother is Kyle Teal. I know a lot of State fans will probably remember him from the Virginia team that State played in 21 in the College World Series.
Played catcher
he plays
for
the
them.
White Sox now.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. I think he was that was his freshman year, so he was in the outfield, but then he moved to catcher the next year, something like that.
Cool.
But Aiden Teal is a straight center fielder at this point, from what I can tell.
Awesome.
I will say he spells Aiden in the non-Aura way. I like to see an AYD spelling of Aiden. I think it just looks cooler. So
yeah, those are those important things you look for.
That may be a worry for next season.
We can work to get that changed by the start of next season.
I think that's something y'all really should push for.
So we both have draft risk guys batting leadoff. Who do you have at second?
Or
batting second, I should say.
It's technically a draft risk, I guess, but I expect to be here. That's Drew Wires, the shortstop.
Okay.
From Bryant.
Yes, I also have him in my lineup. I've got him batting 6th. I actually, the minute it was announced that Drew Byers was coming here, Drew Wires?
I think it's a W, right?
Oh, I misspelled it on my graphic then. I got his name and the school he played at mixed up. So I put Drew Byers because I had the B for Bryant in my head.
Played at Ryant.
Anyway, so I do have him batting 6th. He hit 407 last year at Bryant. I'm really excited to have him on the team. The minute he announced he was coming here, I started trying to do some research and do some projections onto like how players who like transfer up from smaller conferences to larger conferences do. And it's pretty interesting if you look at like the top 10 guys who transferred from small conference to a P4 conference, so Big 10, ACC, Big 12, SEC, their batting average dropped by 80 points. The top 10 guys, and then like the bottom guys, they all improved. So I do expect Byers to hit around like 320, probably 330.
Which you'll take any day of the week.
Absolutely, we'll take that. It's just, I think a little deceiving to see that the 407. You're like, oh my gosh, this dude's an absolute stud, and he is, and hopefully will be, but he will not be putting up Charlie Condon numbers, I don't think, here.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think that Drew Wires is like the second best hitter or anything.
Yeah.
I really wanted to put Ace Reese in the 2-hole.
Really?
And I just couldn't get myself to have 2 lefties in my 1-2, which is probably a very old school non-analytics way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, if he's your best hitter, I would personally bat him second. But
yeah, I agree. If Gehrig Fry is here and I have a switch hitter, then it's no question Ace Reese is hitting second for me.
Sure.
I like doing the left-right because in college baseball, where you can change a pitcher every at bat, you're kind of cycling through pitchers a lot more. Like if they're going to bring in a lefty to face Aiden Teal, then I have Drew Wires right there behind him batting righty.
Makes sense.
That you have to worry about, who has power.
Cool. Yeah, I've got Teal at second. So we're both pretty high on him and expect him to do well. I'll go ahead and flip it around since we already talked about him and move on to the 3-hole. I have Noah Sullivan. Sullivan definitely was hitting insane. I think he was hitting like 350 or 400 through non-conference play. I mean, it was absolutely insane. Slowed down a little bit into conference play, but did finish hitting 342, and I believe finished third on the team in home runs behind Reese and Hines.
Sounds right. Yes.
Yeah, he's definitely in there. He was a good hitter. A good home run hitter on a team that set the school record for home runs. So I have him at the 3-hole just because of that high batting average, because I'm clearing the way for Ace Reese at 4th. But we can go ahead and talk about your 3 guy.
Okay. Yeah. So I have the same 3 and 4 as you, just flipped around. I have Ace Reese 3rd, Noah Sullivan 4th.
Yeah.
Like we talked about a second ago, I would much rather have Ace Reese batting 2nd, but I think Noah Sullivan is a guy that if he's hitting 4th, and I have any of the guys that we've talked about so far in those first 3, then it's going to be really hard for him not to come to the plate with a guy on base in that first inning.
Yeah.
And probably more than anyone else on this team, he's a guy that I trust to put a professional at bat together and do a job if I need him to.
Absolutely.
It feels like I don't think he ever had. I mean, I'm sure he probably did, but it felt like he never just saw 3 pitches, struck out, and went back to the dugout. Like, he was always at least battling. He seemed like a 25-year-old, 26-year-old guy out there playing college baseball against 19-year-olds. It just seemed like he knew what he was doing more than everyone else.
Yeah.
That's why I have him 4th. And then Ace Reese 3rd, because he's your best player, he's your best hitter. You need to find a balance between getting him as many at bats as possible and giving him as many important at bats as possible.
Right.
We can have an Ace Reese conversation on another day, but I think you could argue that he's the best, most talented player State's had since Brent Rooker or something. But
wow. I mean, I don't remember. I remember watching those teams play, but I could not tell you how talented those guys were because they were just playing baseball, and I was like 12, 13. So I was just like, oh, they're good at baseball. But I could definitely see that being the case. But like you said, we can save that conversation for another time. We've got a long summer still ahead of us, and then a long off season in the fall and spring before we get to baseball in February. But so you've got Noah Sullivan and Ace Reese batting opposite of mine. Yep, 3 and 4. Yep. Reese at 3, Sullivan at 4. I feel like this bottom half of the lineup is where things could be very different. Honestly, just because who we have playing outfield, who we have going to. I kind of am under the assumption that we might be able to return all of our position players. I think that's right. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah. I could see Fry coming back, Teal coming back. I'm just not super worried about losing those guys just because we are in a different era of baseball where guys can make so much money in college baseball, and then we're also one of the premier programs in college baseball where we have that working for us as well. So that's kind of why I give every player almost the benefit of the doubt that they'll be coming back. But what do you have this bottom half of the lineup after the top 4 guys?
Okay. Do you want me to just run through it? And
yeah,
we can
do
talk
that.
About it, okay. So batting 5th, I would almost put this guy. I feel like the break in the lineup comes after 5th instead of 4th. 5th, I have Kevin Maluski, the catcher from Seton Hall. Then 6th, I have James Nunnally in right field. 7th, I just have whoever's playing first base. Right now I put Blake Beavis in there, but I could see Fry being playing first, Vitas Valinkas playing first, a bunch of different guys. 8, I'm alluded to this earlier, but I have Ryder Woodson batting 8 and playing second base. And then in left field, I have Bryce Chance batting 9th.
Yeah, so I honestly, I'm going to start with Bryce Chance just because he's a guy, this is his, I believe, 5th year here, but it'll be his 4th year playing. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, he redshirted his first year.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So I want to lead off with Bryce Chance. I've got him batting 8, so we both have him and playing left field. We both have him in the lineup. I think he's like one of the probably the two guys like that are going to play that should start in the outfield. Teal because of his talent, and then Bryce Chance because of his experience. He is probably, I mean, he's the longest tenured player on the roster, I believe, or he definitely is if he's going into his 5th year. So he's one of those guys.
Stone Simmons is gone, so
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So I think he's one of those guys that just has to start because of his experience and also because of how he finished the season. Just super collected in SEC play. Long hitting streaks, high. Had a very high batting average in that I think second half of SEC play. So it was just really cool getting to see him kind of take it to another level that we hadn't really seen from him against some of the best competition in the country. So Bryce Chance, I think, has to start. I've also got Kaluski. I spelled his name wrong. I might have to take this graphic down.
You've cooked.
I spelled too many players' names wrong. I was trying to make all this. We audibled this show last night at 11:30. It was going to be an AFC South division preview. Audibled it to Baseball Transfer Portal, and so I was doing all this prep work right after church at like 12:45. So yeah, I'm gonna take that down because I'm gonna leave it up. It's fine. I apologize for the bad spelling, but yeah, I've got Maluski up there as well. I'm really excited to see what he does because as State has struggled at catcher since I guess Logan Tanner left. But we had Luke Hancock, and then we had Johnny Long, Ross Highfield, Joe Powell. Joe Powell is probably the best guy out of that group, and I'm excited to see maybe another tier above that at catcher behind the plate. So that's really exciting. Okay, hold on, I gotta pull it back up. You said Ryder Woodson. I don't remember him standing out as like. I mean, I know I've been keep track with all of our transfers in, so like I definitely heard about him, but I don't remember being like, oh, this is a guy that's going to take a starting job.
Yeah, for sure. I have a quick note on Chance and Maluski first.
Do it.
That's all right. So Bryce Chance, I put him in here. I think, I'll be honest, for years I've been trying to just push Bryce Chance out of this lineup, and he will not die. He just keeps coming back. So even though there are several guys that I don't have starting that I and confident are more talented than Bryce Chance, I just assume at this point that somehow he's going to find his way. We're going to look up in late March, early April and be like, oh, there's Bryce Chance in the lineup every single day and you can't take him out. And then Maluski, I agree with you for the most part on catcher. I was a Johnny Long supporter. I think he did a lot of things that show up in the stat sheet. Like his pitch framing was beautiful. And I think this might be something where I have to change my thinking from pro baseball to college because the bar for pro catchers offensively is just so low that like a guy like Joe Powell that was hitting 280, 290, I was like, that's perfectly fine for my catcher. But in college baseball, you do probably need a little more than that, which I think Maluski will be able to give you.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to Ryder. So Ryder Woodson was a freshman for NC State last year.
Okay.
And he didn't play a ton, but then got a lot of run in the regionals and was, I don't remember the exact stats. I want to say he had like 3 homers in the regionals at Auburn.
Okay, I do remember this. Yeah.
Yes. So I think he was brought in to be a middle infield starter. NC State was kind of counting on him to be a starter next year. I don't think he would necessarily leave a good baseball program to come to a great one unless he thought he was going to be starting somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether at shortstop or second. I think he can play third also, but that's kind of locked down at Mississippi State for next year.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I have him hitting second.
Okay. Hitting 7th, you said?
Oh, hitting 8th. My bad.
8th,
Playing second.
Playing second.
Hitting
Okay,
8th.
cool. I've also got Nunnally on the starting lineup. I think I actually don't have Bevis on the lineup because I've got Gehrig playing first, but it sounds like we agree about like some of the main pieces and kind of where guys will go in the lineup. Bryce will be starting near the bottom. Maluski will be starting near the bottom. I think we disagree a little bit about Byers, but he is going to be, I hope, good here. Also, so we can move on. That's our starting lineups. You want to do pitchers. So you're probably going to be able to do pitchers better than I can, just because I am not like I saw someone tweet their starting pitchers rotation of the day, and they had Ciari pitching midweek, which I kind of disagree with. But I'd love to hear what you think about what the pitching staff could look like.
Yeah. Oh, I'll start off on Ciari. I think Ciari is really interesting because he's kind of like Bryce Chance, where if you look at like talent, probably not the guy that you pencil into Friday night.
Right.
But every year I know he's going to throw strikes. He's dependable, and he's gotten better every year. So I don't have him in the rotation right now, but
really,
like we talked about with Chance, if we get into SEC play and he's starting on Sundays and giving you 6 innings of 3 runs every week, I'm not going to be shocked either. I think he showed some really good things towards the end of the year, but I don't want to get blinded by he was the perfect pitcher to go up against that Ole Miss lineup and just had the best game of his life.
Yeah.
So in my rotation, so Friday night I have Tomas Valinkis, the left-handed pitcher. I think he's up to like 98. He was on Team USA.
Yeah.
I think he came from Virginia to be the Friday night starter. Saturday, I have Davion Hickson from Rice. He was their Friday night starter this year. He is a draft risk.
Yeah.
But I think right now he'll probably get to campus. And then I have Sunday starter and a closer written down. This could flip-flop, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I have Charlie Foster as the Sunday starter and Ryan McPherson as the closer.
Yeah.
I think long-term, McPherson is probably more talented. But the way that Justin Parker used him this year seemed like he looked at Charlie Foster as more of a starter in 2024 than McPherson. But also that could change by the time we get to 2025. So I wouldn't be really shocked either way.
Yeah. It might be 2026, right?
Yeah, this would be for 2026.
Yeah.
I think whatever happens next year in 2027, you're going to have 3 juniors between Valinkis, Foster, and McPherson all starting, and it's going to be one of the best rotations, probably the best rotation in the country.
Yeah.
Assuming no transfers or injuries or whatever.
So I've got the same Friday and Saturday night guys as you, Valinkis and Hickson, and then I have Ciari starting on Sunday just because. I mean, I think that he was the second. So you had Pico, who was clearly the best pitcher, and then Ciari, who was clearly the second best pitcher on I think last year's starting pitchers. And then who do you have? Did you say your midweek guy?
I didn't. I wouldn't. I feel like this staff that we put together is so deep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing the bullpen game every midweek.
Yeah.
You also have, if you need someone to eat innings, you have Noah Sullivan there. You can just throw out throw 2 or 3 innings against Alcorn State and not worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of different options. If Jack Bauer were to somehow get to campus, he could start on midweeks, but you never know.
Yeah, so that's actually a perfect segue. So I was going to ask about, so we've got a pretty good freshman class coming in, a lot of draft risks. I wanted to talk specifically about 3 guys, Jack Bauer, Joseph Parker, and then Peter Mershon. So Bauer was a UVA commit. After we brought in O'Connor, he flipped from UVA to State. He's throwing in the low 100s on his fastball. He's a definite draft risk, but if he made it to campus, what kind of impact do you think we would see from him? Because we've seen elite freshmen start in college right away. I believe Kumar Rocker started his freshman year at Vandy. So it's not unheard of for uber talented freshmen to come in and start right away. Do you think Bauer could compete for a weekend spot, or are we looking most likely midweek and then weekend later on in his career?
I think he is probably, honestly, I'd put it 50-50 that he blows out his elbow the first fall he gets here. Just because it feels like he's a lefty that throws triple digits. It feels like that's inevitably going to happen at some point. If he were to be healthy by next spring and on campus, I feel like he starts as a guy out of the bullpen, maybe midweek, and you try to work him up to being a starter in postseason play because he's such a unicorn.
Yeah.
With being a lefty that can throw triple digits, like there are a handful of those people on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So he would be. I think he'd be used in some way for sure, but just how you want to use him, how you want to protect him, and keep him healthy would be the interesting thing.
Yeah. And if you could elevate him to a starter by postseason, because that's when that pitching depth at starter really matters, that could be really cool. Joseph Parker is another draft risk. I believe he's twin brothers with another state commit, shortstop, and then the other one is an outfielder. What do you think? So could he compete with Wires? Is that, yeah, I got that right that time.
It is
Drew
Wires
out of Bryant. Do you think that he could compete as a freshman for that starting shortstop spot if Wires can't make that adjustment to SEC play, or do you think that's another depth piece that will be down the road?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't thought about it any because there is a 0% chance he gets to Mississippi State.
Okay.
He's a top 10 pick. I think both him and his brother are going to go pro.
Okay, awesome.
I feel confident in that.
That is unfortunate. And then lastly, the last on my list, Peter Mershon, David Mershon's younger brother, is a catcher. And so I could see him getting some playing time just because right now catcher is probably our it and shortstop are our shallowest positions as far as depth goes. So I could see him competing if he gets to campus. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he could definitely get some playing time at catcher, probably like in a midweek, take some innings off of Maluski behind the plate.
Yeah.
But not necessarily a guy that we're going to be relying on for most of the season.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think the main question around him is when he announced his commitment, he used David Mershon's like walk-up song and clips of that. Do you think there's a chance he reuses that walk-up song and kind of plays it up to give the fans what they want with the clapping over their heads? That's kind of my big question about him. What do you think?
I think if he's going to do that, he's got to grow the hair out too.
Okay.
Coming out of the helmet,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Which would be really interesting to see with the catcher's mask. Like, does that just like pop out of the back of the catcher's mask too? I don't really know how that works.
Yeah. I told Jack, I said for him to pull that off, he has to be better because you can't use your older brother's walk-up song and then like not be better than him. But
I think there's a world where you can low-key suck and use it because like you just
I
like
hope
know
that's not
you're
the-
like firmly stuck in your older brother's shadow,
I
but
hope
like
that's
that's
not
just
the
like your
case.
gimmick.
yeah, I hope that is not the case. I hope that he is better. And also, as younger brothers often are, there's a good chance he is better. So that's pretty exciting. That's kind of all the stuff I want to talk about Mississippi State baseball. Go ahead?
Well, I just wanted to give a congratulations to Bryce Chance, who got married yesterday.
Oh,
So shout out to him. It's a big day for him. I was just scrolling Twitter while y'all are talking because I don't have any input. I'm not a state guy, and that popped up.
that's awesome.
I do think his wife is just about as tall as him. Short King Bryce Chance.
That is tough.
That doesn't seem like it'd be very hard after watching him on the field.
No. And I will say she probably was in heels. I don't know. So he probably has a couple inches on her.
Yeah.
But shout out Short King Bryce Chance.
Yeah.
We can move on now.
Yeah. Any other state baseball stuff, Tucker?
I mentioned one more draft risk guy, Landon Harmon.
Okay.
Feel pretty good that he'll sign and go pro. But he is from somewhere near Starkville.
He's
I don't remember
from
what
New
school he
Albany.
goes to. Okay, yeah, so pretty close to Starkville.
Yeah, like North
Um,
Mississippi, so hour and a half.
Yeah. Right. I feel more confident that he'll go pro than Jack Bauer.
Okay.
But just another name to watch as if anyone takes the time to watch the MLB draft.
I will be
you shouldn't
watching.
take the time to watch anything but the first round.
That's what I'll be doing. Is I will be watching the first round. Fingers crossed that every pick is not a state commit or a state player.
I don't know. I feel like you get one guy every year that like gets signed or drafted in the third round, and the team just like throws as much money as possible at him.
Yeah.
Because
Because
of
obviously
Georgia.
you have to go way over slot, but like they just sign cheap college guys everywhere else, and they just take a big swing.
Yeah.
State's probably not the biggest risk for that, considering, like you said, NIL and
Facilities.
facilities. Going to be hard to steal someone from state, but you
It
never know.
is. I believe was that a Colton Ledbetter? Was he drafted not low, but like not like clear and obvious go to the pros?
I can't remember. I think it was Colton Ledbetter's last year of leverage, so it was pretty known that he was gone.
Okay.
Dakota Jordan last year and David Mershon were the ones that I remember. Especially Dakota Jordan was drafted in like the 4th round, but then
Got way over slot.
I think, he got like first round money
Okay.
to go ahead and go pro because he had another year of leverage. Had he come back, he would have still had leverage this year to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
All
Makes
right.
One team that I know will not be signing Jack Bauer is the Braves because he's represented by Scott Boras.
Yeah, that's a big no for us. We probably will draft a pitcher, though. It's all we do. Even though we can't hit to save our lives and probably could use a talented position player. I would personally love if Jace Laviolette fell to us, which he very well may because his draft stock really dropped at A&M this past year. But if he fell to us and we took him, I'd be over the moon. But we're going to take a
I'm
pitcher.
just counting down the days until Tim Hires is fired. I need that man out of my life.
All right, I do want to. So we have someone who's active in the chat, which I really appreciate. So we're gonna talk about what he's saying. He said Noah Sullivan is in the draft. I don't know if I see that because
He says 50-50.
No, I thought he said is in the draft. Chance. Oh, okay, I see. I thought he was saying
50-50.
yeah. Chance and he are both 50%.
Everyone's in the draft.
Yes, he said Noah. Well, actually, didn't we have a guy just announce he's coming back? Was it Ben Davis said he was taking him out of the draft?
I don't know.
I think you can take your name out, but teams can still pick you.
Really?
Is how I understand the MLB draft. It might be different. I know the NBA is like you have to actually put your name
Correct.
in.
Yeah.
I don't think the MLB draft is like that because you see college football players drafted all the time. Like, if any team would like to draft me,
Your draft,
free to,
yeah,
by the
you're
way.
available. Call his name.
Yeah.
I am available. Call my name.
I meant to fill out the paperwork to apply for the NFL draft after I graduated, and I forgot. So he said, yeah, Noah Sullivan is in the draft. Chance and he are 50% that they – oh, chances are 50% he comes back. I kept reading that as Bryce Chance. I'm sorry, Sven. But, yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a pretty good chance he comes back. He just really seemed bought in to Mississippi State, just the way he carried himself all season long. And then also – I don't know what the demand of a DH is in baseball when there are a lot of guys that can hit.
That does hurt his value, definitely.
Yeah,
a little
just
bit.
because he doesn't play defense. And then
Right. And
go ahead.
right-handed hitter with no positional value. There's no the word is escaping me. But, there's not a lot of room for those kind of guys.
Dude, that's hype.
in Major League Baseball.
Our Sven just apologized. Sorry, my English is bad. I'm a German State fan. Well, we appreciate you for tuning in. We are huge State fans. So if you ever this is the place to be for State sports. We hope. So we're glad you're here. He said we're missing the point. Coach O'Connor has options who to play. There are more than 9 guys who can start. Yeah,
Which is so ideal because injuries are going to happen.
absolutely.
People are going to play poorly or be in bad stretches.
Yeah. This is really exciting. It's the downside of, we were talking earlier about outfielder Tucker. It is the downside about recruiting so well and bringing so much talent is you're stuck with 7 guys who are I would love to have them start in my outfield.
It's the best problem to
you
have.
You can't start all 7. He said he sees Sierra as a Saturday starter. He's been consistent since day 1 to the last inning in Tallahassee. And then he also said that Davis will be coming back. That's what Davis took his name out of the draft. I guess he could still be drafted, but I feel like
he basically said, "Do not draft
you're
me."
Yeah, that's probably what that is don't draft me.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because people will tell teams that all the time. It's don't draft me. I'm going to college. That's why you see a top high, say the Joseph Parker was his name.
Yeah.
If he wanted to go to school, he'd be telling teams don't draft me. And that's why a guy that would potentially go top 10 suddenly just doesn't get drafted because everyone knows he's going to school, so there's no point in drafting him.
Yep. Maybe
You're
he's
just
telling
wasting
that
a draft
behind the scenes.
You're
That's
just
probably what's
wasting a
happening.
draft pick. Exactly. Huh?
I'm lying to myself and saying
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
probably saying that behind the scenes. We just don't know about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I will be watching the first round of the MLB draft. I'm kind of sad. We're going camping. We're leaving for camping on Sunday, but we'll get there. We'll drive halfway there Sunday. We're going to North Carolina and then get there on Monday. So I'll watch I'll watch Sunday night, and then Monday we'll be in the mountains. I won't have cell service, so I won't know for a week, I won't have self-service.
I'll send you a carrier pigeon.
Yeah,
just to
all
make
the
sure.
guys, over those next couple of days, as guys sign their deals or announce that they're coming back, I won't be
That's
connected
tough.
to that.
That's
I'm
pretty
terrified.
tough.
So I'm gonna come out of the mountains a week later and be like, well,
Here's
now
what happened.
Here's the roster.
Yeah.
So
I miss the days of like the 50-round MLB draft because people be getting drafted in the 45th round, and the people doing the coverage would be like, "Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing this guy's name. Like, let me try and do some research real quick."
yeah, I do not envy the people who have to talk about that for days on end.
Yeah.
However long the MLB
I have
draft
one more
is.
thing.
Yep.
If anyone's watching the draft, so the way the MLB draft works, if I get this wrong, Jack, you can correct me.
Okay.
But teams have a bonus pool of money that they can give to players, and there's an amount slotted for each pick, and then all that together is the bonus pool money. Teams lose the amount of money for a pick if they don't sign that player in the first 10 rounds. I explained that terribly. Let me try again. If a team selects a player in the first 10 rounds and then doesn't sign that player, they lose the money of that player. So if you see someone drafted in the first 10 rounds,
They're really
assume that
expecting
they're
to sign
gone
him.
because they probably already agreed to terms with that guy.
Yep.
Yes. It's
over
it's
the
a
phone off the book.
it's a very
Which has
rare
to get signed.
scenario where they don't get drafted. That's correct. It's a thing like a Kumar Rocker type thing where a physical came back bad, or because I will say while they don't get that money back, they'll get a compensatory pick the next year to kind of recoup some of the value.
Yeah.
Still very beneficial for them to sign the guy they drafted because the pick isn't as good. But yeah, it's almost a shoo-in if someone gets drafted on draft night that they're going to end up signing a deal. So that's a good point to make. Do you want to give us your other winner and then your loser?
Yeah, so
Oh, hold on.
I have two winners. Yeah, Sven said at the end, I'm tired of losing to mediocre teams. I think we all are, and I think that era is
I mean, that's why
kinda
Lamonis
over.
got fired.
Yeah,
right?
that is why Lamonis got fired. I think that era is over. I've said this multiple times over the past couple weeks, and I will keep saying it until our first preseason ranking. I think State is going to be a top 5 to top 8, maybe top 5 preseason team.
I mean, most people have them in the Omaha 8. They're
Yeah.
too early Omaha 8.
Yeah,
Um,
it's that talented a roster. I hope it shouldn't get picked apart too badly in the draft, just because it's a pretty young roster as well.
and it's deep. You can afford a couple losses to the draft and
Yeah.
still.
But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I can do. I mean, we gonna keep talking on the phone for this? That's fine with me.
Tucker's welcome to join
You
for
want
the
to
rest
stay
of
around?
the,
Yeah.
the
So we're
college
still talking
baseball.
baseball. If you want to hang around, Tucker.
I'll stick around.
All right.
I'll
So
stick around.
I've got I've got 2 more winners and a loser for the transfer portal. My first winner, we're going to start this one. This one is kind of a hot take, all right? I've got Virginia as a winner this transfer portal. However, that's with the caveat that I'm kind of starting their offseason probably I would say a week after Brian O'Connor left. So they did lose their 22-year head coach, and he took a lot of the players with him. However, they brought in Chris Pollard, so they kind of snatched a really good head coach from another ACC team. So you're making a in-conference rival worse and improving yourself. He'd been at Duke for 13 years. I mean, we've talked about this guy. We talked about him. He was a potential state guy. We talked about him. Like, that's how good he was. We were discussing him as a potential state coach. He was there for 13 years. He made the Super Regional 4 out of the last 7 years. That doesn't count the COVID year, so 4 out of the last 8. He was able to keep Eric Becker on campus and then brings in AJ Gracia. That is definitely not Garcia. I double-checked it. It's not a typo. It's Gracia, I think, is how it's pronounced.
Now you're already second-guessing yourself.
Well, that's how it's spelled. I think that's how it's pronounced. And then both of those guys
I
made
think you're right because it gets me every time.
I
yeah.
also believe you're right.
Yeah, both of those guys made the USA Collegiate National Team. So they had 2 guys on the roster, which is the same number as State. And then they've also landed 4 additional players from the Duke roster that, like I said, was just in a Super Regional. So that's why I kind of list them as a winner, because their offseason started off terribly. And they, after that, had a decent offseason. I mean, it's been decent. And so they kind of bounced back from that just about as well as you could hope. So that's why I list them as a winner, because they recovered from a pretty bad start.
That makes sense. I mean, if you look at the offseason as a whole, it's a loss because you lose one of the best coaches in baseball.
Yeah.
And you lose a lot of players. But I agree. Like, this could have gone so much worse for them. They did a good job to salvage. Salvage the offseason. It doesn't really feel like it's going to have to be a full-blown rebuild from them.
No.
I don't know how good they'll be next year, but they should be fairly competitive, and then be able to roll into year 2 under Chris Pollard. Kind of back at Virginia baseball levels, or hopefully close to of being one of the best teams in the ACC. Kind of looking to make Omaha runs, or at least consistent super regionals, host some, yada yada yada. It's really weird to be like that's Virginia baseball, because it's really not. It's Virginia baseball
It's
under
Brian
O'Connor.
It's Brian
O'Connor baseball, but that's so they're hoping to stay close to that standard. I think they may be realistic and realize it won't be quite that good, but if Pollard can kind of get them back to the level like just below that, kind of the Duke level, I think they're very happy with that.
Yeah.
At UVA, so.
Yeah, sure. I don't have anything to and they did the best they could with the hand Riddell. If you think that they could have done anything about it.
Repeat that real quick, Tucker. You
Yeah,
cut out a little bit.
I thought they did the best they could with the hand if you assume that they couldn't have done anything about Brian O'Connor leaving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a fair assumption. For y'all that couldn't really catch, basically said he feels like they did the best they could, assuming that they had no chance to keep Brian O'Connor.
Yeah.
If they let him walk out the door, if he was like, "Give me this and I'll stay," and they were like, "Nah, we're good."
Yeah.
That's kind of a sell from them. But I agree that's probably not a realistic assumption of what happened.
Yeah. Given that we made him the second highest paid coach in college baseball, and we have the facilities we do and the stadium that we do and the fan base that we do, I really don't think, barring them doing something that would have been very unexpected, I don't really think they had a chance of keeping him. So I consider them a winner, just because I do think that they did a very good job of trying to of keeping guys on campus. I mean, they kept Eric Decker and then a couple other pieces, but they did lose a lot. But then they also brought in some Duke pieces. My next winner is the SEC.
Shocker.
Yeah, so the SEC currently has the top 8 transfer classes according to 64 Analytics. My new favorite Twitter account this baseball season, honestly, has been 64 Analytics. They've been really cool to keep up with, and they post a lot. So while I don't subscribe and pay to view all their rankings, they post enough that I can keep up with it. So shout out 64 Analytics on Twitter. They're the best conference in baseball, the SEC is. Other conferences started popping the champagne after a rough first week in the SEC, had 9 of their 13 tournament teams sent home, including the number 1 and number 2 of all seeds, as well as 2 additional regional hosts. But the SEC bounced back by being the only conference to send multiple teams to Omaha and wrapped up the season by winning the championship for the 6th straight time. So, yeah, it's tough out there for other conferences because the SEC has just been dominant as of late, and after an off season or a postseason where everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, the SEC overrated," because as soon as they play other teams, they lose. They win the World Series, the College World Series, and now in the off season, they are absolutely stacking up these teams. I'm not gonna. If you want to talk, Tucker, you got thoughts on that? You laugh, so you clearly you either agree maybe or disagree.
I agree. I think specifically in the SEC, if there was a team I'd want to highlight, it would be South Carolina.
Yeah.
Who had all the talk was about Missouri. South Carolina might have been the 2nd worst baseball team in SEC history this year.
Yeah.
Behind this year's Missouri, or ahead of this year's Missouri. And they had a really good transfer class. I felt like every other day they were landing a pretty notable transfer, at least according to the 64 Analytics website.
Yeah.
So for a program that I honestly thought was just going to kind of languish in misery as long as Paul Maneri was there, they did a good job of rebuilding the roster and we'll see what they can do this year with it.
Yeah, so I just pulled it up. South Carolina is currently 5th, or as of July 4th at 1:20 p.m., the last time they tweeted the rankings, 64 Analytics did. They're 5th. I'll just run through them real quick. Mississippi State is 1st. Tennessee is 2nd. Georgia is 3rd. Texas is 4th. South Carolina at 5. Auburn at 6. Kentucky at 7. And then rounding out the SEC 8, you got Alabama. So, yeah, that's a really good winner. Not one I had pulled on, and it's one of those things where relative to their performance last season, it makes them even, being top 5 as far as transfer portal goes is good, but then considering how poor they were last season, it's, incredible to kind of be wow, last season, 64 Analytics tweeted this: their top 5 transfer portal classes were all super regional hosts. So I don't know how over previous years how that holds up, but it's kind of like if you're top 5, you're not guaranteeing you're gonna be super regional hosts, but the expectation is you're gonna be a good team. So that's really big for South Carolina. And this portal season's not over yet, but yeah, that could be really, really good for them this offseason.
Yeah, South Carolina's 5th. I'm pretty sure that matches their SEC win total from last year. Didn't they win 5 games? I could be wrong.
I'll look it up, but you keep going, Sanders. I'll look it up.
That could be tough. So that would be really tough for them, but also encouraging. And so as my one loser, you actually mentioned them, is Missouri. So Missouri baseball, they went 3-27 in conference play last year, 16-39 overall.
They won 6 games, Tucker. Okay, let's pump the brakes on the hate, man. Okay.
I gotta respect the game, guys.
Yeah.
6 whole games.
Put
man.
some respect on their name. That's over half as many as A&M won.
This is true.
And twice as many as my loser, Missouri. Missouri went 16-39 overall last year, 3-27 in conference play. Jack remembers all 3 of their wins vividly. They came in College Station against his Aggies. It was insane. A&M is just a much better team than them. They should have gone 0-30. I don't know how they won 3 games on the road against A&M.
It's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, if you looked at that preseason schedule, it's those are probably the 3 games they were least likely to win is on the road at A&M.
Yeah.
While other SEC teams, like we just discussed, are reloading, Missouri's had 15 players enter the portal, including a freshman pitcher, Will Libbert, who pitched the most games of anyone on the roster and is leaving for one of those reloading teams in Ole Miss. So to replace those losses, they brought in an outfielder from Wichita State, a senior from A&M who hit .231 last season, and a pitcher from Nova Southeastern. So I don't know what kind of performances they're expecting from those guys, and I think they made other additions that I couldn't find, but it's just considering they're kind of the opposite of the South Carolina offseason, where after a really bad season, South Carolina's got a top 5 transfer class. Missouri is just leaking out of it's just bad. They're losing guys left and right. And in their defense, the guys they're losing went 3-27 in conference play last year. But I just haven't been super impressed with what they've done to kind of try and improve on last season. So they're my loser in this transfer portal. We kind of kept it all in the SEC. It is unfortunately the baseball I know best. And I, got to be more diverse going forward, but tough off season. So yeah, you were talking about Missouri a second ago. Tucker, you got thoughts there?
Yeah, it's just bleak. I think the care factor is just not there for Missouri.
Agreed.
I think their AD at the end of the season kind of had a press conference where he just kind of said, yeah, we're not putting the resources into baseball to make it competitive.
Yeah.
And at the time, I kind of read it as, we're not doing that now. We're going to do that in the future because the coach can't compete with the amount of money we put into it. But it seems like they just kind of said that as yeah, we don't expect our coach to win in baseball because our fans don't care about it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's wrong, but that's
no.
the way
I think you're right there.
This point.
I think it shows too that they don't really fire their coach, even though he doesn't perform well, because they understand that they're not trying. So at least they do that. At least they don't have unrealistic expectations for the amount of effort they put in and the amount of resources they put in. But yeah.
All right. Sven said he doesn't know if the SEC is the best conference in the future. The rev sharing amongst all sports will hurt teams like LSU, Tennessee, Florida, or Texas. Coastal will spend the whole $20.5 million on baseball. I don't know the details of rev sharing. Is it $20.5 million per school, or is it sorted by tiers depending on your conference?
I think each gets $18.5 mil. I didn't even know it was 20.
It's 20.5.
Okay, 20.5.
So every team.
I think it's 18.5 for athletes and $2 million for scholarships.
Okay. That's where the 20.5 comes
extra
from.
scholarships, as far as filling out baseball scholarships, giving non-revenue sports scholarships.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I will say, so a team like Coastal, if they really can just give all their money to baseball, will consistently have really good rosters. I mean, they already do. They were right there this past season.
Yeah.
But I mean, every other conference, the ACC is going to still have to divvy up resources. The Big Ten is going to have to divvy up resources.
Yeah.
Throughout all programs. So there may be a couple blips that don't, but everyone's kind of under the same boat. And we've seen the SEC in the past prioritize baseball more than any other conference. And so I don't see why they wouldn't continue to prioritize baseball more than any other conference in this revenue sharing era.
Yeah, Sven does make a really good point though, and I hadn't considered this. Is he said $25.5 million per school? If you think about like a Creighton basketball,
Yeah, I mean, that's the best example. They just may be cold.
like, are they just going to that?
Yeah, I think basketball it's going to matter way more than baseball.
Yeah,
personally.
but even like a Coastal Carolina is not a basketball school or a football school, so they might be putting 75 or 70% of their resources towards that. Yeah, that's right, Sven. Yeah, St. John's, Gonzaga will put all that money or the majority of that money towards basketball. That's going to be really interesting. I have not even thought about that until now, about how, like, because for us in the ACC, the SEC will probably still be better because just like the SEC, the ACC will also have to be divvying up. Louisville is going to have to put money towards football, baseball, basketball, women's basketball. Clemson is going to have to work on their baseball and basketball programs. So against those upper tiers where all the schools have all of the programs, it's going to remain probably a pretty similar order.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought about how these little schools who are only baseball, or not only, but primarily baseball or primarily basketball, how that's going to benefit them.
I will say, like, a lot of the schools that only have one sport aren't as big of names. Not necessarily the basketball schools, because those are, big name brands in basketball. But, like, if you go to an LSU baseball over a school like Stetson, for example, or Campbell,
Yeah.
who has had good baseball success, LSU's brand is a lot bigger, so, like, outside endorsements, like becoming a Gatorade sponsored
That is
athlete
true.
is a lot more likely. Stuff like that just is still going to, play a factor. And also, realistically, we're just going to go back to money being pushed under the table.
Yeah.
So I am interested. I do think it's going to have an impact. I'm just interested to see how big it really is.
Yeah.
When you kind of throw in all the factors and the McDonald's bags full of cash.
Yeah. And that is true, is that the endorsements will still be a pot, like, we're going to try and get to that place where NIL is actually NIL. And so LSU is going to have just easy access with Canes and all of that kind of stuff.
You go to Florida, you are a guaranteed Gatorade athlete, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
go to Mississippi State, you're guaranteed a Reed sponsorship.
massive.
Mossy Oak.
Mossy Oak, yeah. So
Well, that's what I mean. You need all the trucks and boots back in that state locker room.
Yeah.
So.
Sven said LSU is one of the few schools to have a billionaire in the background as a donor. There's a lot of, A&M's got them, Texas has them, Ohio State,
The stat at
Michigan.
one point was, I don't know if this still holds, but A&M had the most Fortune 500 CEOs as alum. So, which is kind of interesting.
So
now, I don't know
A&M
how involved all of them are, but, A&M is a 40-year commitment.
Yeah.
Our alumni network is just massive. Everyone commits. So, I would hope they're ponying up the big bucks for us.
There's definitely at least a dozen schools out there who are very well funded. And even now we're seeing Texas Tech, and we don't have to get into that right now, but I think Texas Tech must have just spawned in some billionaires because of the money they must be dealing out.
It is strange that, like, they just had an oil billionaire that, like, just, I guess, it seems like he just decided to start caring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, it could look very different the way sports works even after revenue sharing. I hope it's better, but I think that's kind of all of our college sports stuff.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for joining, Tucker, as always.
Yeah.
I am sure you'll be back on here at some point this fall for football.
Yep.
You have to join us a couple times for our weekly state recap. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. You helped Sanders out a lot. You didn't make him talk all alone. So.
Yeah, I think Jack said probably 6 words in the state baseball stuff.
Yeah, I said 6 words, and I think 5 of them weren't state baseball related.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, I gave breaking news on the Bryce Chance front.
That
Yeah,
is
give me
true.
credit
You
for
heard it
that.
here first.
Shout out. Beans.
Yeah,
That's true. I found that tweet, Jack. I think Bryce
Hail
has an
State,
inch,
Sven.
maybe.
He what?
I think he might have an inch on
Okay,
his
yeah.
new bride, maybe an inch taller.
Well,
Definitely, it was close though.
He's married. He got it done, right? I feel like being a short king only hurts you potentially
That's
in the
true.
dating field.
yeah.
But he closed the deal. So, I mean, he's a D1 athlete playing baseball, so I think that helps him overcome potential shortcomings.
All right.
Literally.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Tucker. We're going to move on to some soccer stuff.
No, MLB.
MLB baseball.
We'll let you go, Tucker.
Yeah,
Peace.
thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, talk to y'all later. Hope US gets the win tonight against
Me too,
Mexico.
as always. See ya.
Dos a 0.
Facts.
See
We
ya.
don't have Pulisic, though. That's tough.
Did he just hang up?
Yeah, he hung up.
Okay. I didn't know if you were just like, we don't have Pulisic.
No.
Okay. So we're talking. This is you.
Yeah. We're going to hop into the MLB. We're going to go to the professional side
That's what we're doing.
of baseball.
I keep thinking soccer.
We did a show before the season looking at our division winners, and I'm just going to walk through what's going on in baseball right now, focusing mainly on the division winners, maybe pop up a couple other big storylines right now. I'm sure I'll talk about my Braves for a second. Starting in the AL East, after Sanders sneezes, the Blue Jays are sitting up top of the AL East after a good hot stretch to end the first half. They've really surged recently. I believe they're 9-1 across their last 10 games, unless they lost today. They may be
9-1.
playing right now. I don't know. But anyway, they're really hot right now. A bit of a career resurgence from George Springer. His OPS is like 870 something right now. After a bad couple years there, Alejandro Kirk behind the plate has been big. Their pitching staff, as it has been these past couple years, has really contributed well. And their kind of surge has really coincided with the Yankees scuffle. The Yankees were up in this division by 6 games at one point. They are 3-7 in their last 10. They've just not been playing good ball. Their defense hasn't been good. Hitters haven't been performing. But the defense has just kind of been yeesh. So Yankees fans are panicking a little bit. But yeah, who did we have? I know you had the Orioles, and they're sitting in last in this division.
Yeah, it's a tough look for me. I had the Orioles. So did JP.
And I had the Red Sox, who I believe are sitting in 4th in the division. Right at 500.
Yes, they.
So
I
should pull that up.
I've got it right here. The Red Sox are 4th.
Yeah.
At 545 and 45. So.
Not necessarily out of it yet, but not great.
I mean, the Orioles are only 11 games behind.
They did just sweep the Braves as well this weekend, which was
that is
kind of desperation time for them, and it's really bad that the Braves got swept by the bottom team in the AL East.
Yeah.
So we were not kind of all over it there. I kind of said it on the preview show that the Orioles didn't spend the money that I felt like was necessary for this team to be truly competitive this year.
Yeah.
And that seems to hold true. They've had some young guys perform well, but trying to get a group of 8 young guys to all take the next step at the same time is fairly improbable, and so unsurprisingly that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And play consistent throughout the season too. One of them have a really hot month and then struggle for a little bit. Still a promising future. It just sucks that the organization didn't even spend just a little bit to help out their pitching staff this season. We can move on to the AL Central, your brother's division.
Yeah.
Shocker. Detroit Tigers have been so hot. They've been playing on a 100-win pace for the last 162 games dating back to last season, which is very, very impressive. They have sustained some injuries. I saw Gleyber Torres left the game yesterday with an injury. Jackson Jobe has been hurt. They've had a couple other starters hurt. But they just keep chugging along. Tariq Skubal has been fantastic because, of course, he's probably the best pitcher in baseball. Javier Baez has had a career resurgence in the outfield. He's an all-star starter, I think, for the first time since 2019. So just kind of has really bounced back this year. Riley Green has been great for them in the outfield. Really impressive stuff for them. I didn't necessarily expect them to be quite this good this year, but they've just kept chugging along. I believe, did you have the Tigers?
I think I did. I picked the Tigers for my younger brother because I was like,
and it worked out.
Yeah. I got dogged on. No, sorry, I got dogged on in the NL Central, not the AL Central. So we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did pick the Tigers. Shout out Harris for that because if it was not for him, I would not have picked them. I've been going home we've been going to Jackson, and I've been going home to my family every weekend this summer because it's a cool time to get to see family, make the drive. But I've watched a lot of Tigers baseball this summer because every time I go home for the weekend, Harris, we have 3 TVs in our living room. Unfortunately, my mom hates it. We need to get 2 of them put away. But right now on our TV, we have 3 living rooms left over from March Madness.
3 living rooms and 1 TV?
Did I say?
Yeah, that's impressive.
We have 3 TVs in our living room left over from March Madness. And then after that, she was like, so we take them down now. And we're like, sorry, it's college baseball postseason. We can't. And now that's over, and now we go home and we're like, sorry, we're gonna play Fortnite together. Like we can't.
Well, the Detroit Tigers game was on the top.
And so Harris always commandeers one TV for his Detroit Tigers. So I've watched a lot of Detroit Tigers baseball. I watched the documentary about the no hitter that was no more.
Galarraga's no hitter.
Galarraga's no hitter.
Perfect game.
Perfect game.
Perfect game.
Galarraga's perfect game, and he had never heard of it because he is 15 and doesn't have social media, so he doesn't see the tweets and the reels and all that stuff about it. And so he was watching it, and he was just like heartbroken. And I was like, I'm sorry, I know it's tough, but like I'm on your side. They should have given it to him.
Enjoy it now, Harris. I mean, your team's good right now, is what I'm saying. So, but yeah, I had the Guardians winning this division. They've not performed well. They're pretty well under 500. I think they're 1-9 in their last 10, which is really bad. They can't score. Yeah, I mean, it was a safe pick. They always win this division, and the lack of talent has finally kind of caught up to them as the Detroit Tigers have gotten better. So not my best look, but it's a pretty fun division, and just because of the Tigers. Like, I mean, they have a 12.5 game lead in their division, which is just massive at this point in the season.
That is the largest.
It is the largest.
It is the largest in the MLB right now.
Which is good because since they've been sustaining some injuries, it's nice to have this big lead in case they falter a little bit while trying to get people healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on to the AL West. Sorry, I was reading the chat. The Astros have played phenomenal baseball to end the first half of the season.
Tucker, he said the Emmy for can't figure out how to end a phone call goes
tough.
to. It might be a joint. Y'all might have earned it.
Well,
together.
I just want to cut him off too early.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit of an awkward ending. I apologize, Tucker. But yeah, the Astros have been playing great ball down the stretch. So shout out Sanders for having them to win the division. I would like to point out
it felt like a scummy pick. I hated that.
We are halfway through the season, and so like there's still so much baseball to be played.
Correct.
But still, it is what it is.
It's a lot more satisfying to be right halfway through the season than to be very wrong halfway through the season.
But the Astros trade Kyle Tucker, probably their best hitter in the offseason, to the Cubs, and it was kind of like, okay, is this window closing? The guys they get back from the Cubs have been hitting great. Cam Smith was drafted in the first round of the draft last year, and is currently boasting an OPS well over 800, or like right around 800, I apologize. Isaac Paredes has been great. Altuve's been cooking. Their pitching staff in kind of Astros fashion. Not necessarily always the biggest names these past couple years, but they find guys to get through innings and put up solid stats and put them in position to win games. They currently are on the road this last weekend they're playing the Dodgers to end this first half of the season. They've won the first two games. They've been 18-1 Friday, and one of the Dodgers announcers basically was like, I don't want to say it, but it seems like they know what pitch is coming. Like they know when off speed is coming, and it's like, look, just get over it at this point. They're whipping your butt, and you just can't handle it. I know they cheated that one year, but like, that is crazy. That was like,
is that 2017?
8 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
The team's almost all different guys besides Altuve.
And don't they have the other guy, Yordan Alvarez?
I don't know if Alvarez was up yet with the team.
Okay.
He's a little younger.
I thought he'd been there for forever. But.
I'm almost positive he wasn't. I don't think he was in the system. Funny enough, he also was in the Dodgers system
to
start his career. Yeah,
that's cool.
But yeah, they've been playing great baseball. I'm happy for them. I know most people hate the Astros because of that, but I grew up an hour north of Houston, so they kind of were my second team. I had multiple great friends that are Astros fans, and they've just been enjoying this ride the whole time, and it's fun to enjoy it with them. I actually texted one of my friends today and was like congratulating her on the fact that they've been playing so well.
Yeah.
Because they just really have. The other shout out I want to give real quick in this division, Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, the Mariners catcher, I believe has 35 or 36 home runs, which is a career high for him.
That guy.
But pre-All-Star game, he's already hit his career high. He's on pace for almost 70 home runs.
Yeah.
Which I believe would break the record for a catcher. It's just been very fun to watch. If it wasn't for Aaron Judge, he probably would be the front runner to win MVP in this division. But he's just, I feel like every time I get on Twitter, it's like, the big dumper does it again, and he's hit another home run. So that's been really fun to watch. They're who I had winning this division. They're 7 games back, so it's not looking too hot. Because unsurprisingly, their offense has not been too great, which has been their issue the past couple years.
Yeah. Before we move on, I want to run back to the AL East just because our most active chat, Sven pointed out that the only team he follows is the Rays with Jake Mangum. It's been really fun to see Jake Mangum finally get his chance and kind of, I would say, rise up to the occasion. He was started this. I don't know where he's batting right now, but he was hitting over 300.
He's still sitting a little bit above 300.
Yeah, which is kind of right where he needs to be to stick in the major league as a guy who's not really going to hit home runs. He hit his first home run, and then he hit a in the park home run, like an actual one. I don't think it was any errors. So
yes,
that was pretty cool to see. So it's been really fun to see him finally get a chance and get it done. Another weird thing from the AL East is, for some reason, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was in my mind the other day, and it feels to me like he's been playing for 15 years. And I looked him up, and he is 23, I believe, 26. He's 26, and I was just like, wow. I feel like this guy has been playing like my entire life.
He came up around the same time as guys like Acuna and Soto and stuff like that.
Yeah, so.
Was considered to be better than a lot of those guys too. To be honest, as a prospect, has been good, hasn't panned up to that level. We have a chat from Creed Anderson. Altuve didn't cheat, right? He did. Now he said, and I don't know how much I believe, but he basically said, like, we should stop. Like, this actually isn't helping us that much. Like, we don't need it. But I mean, he was in the dugout. I'm pretty sure it's one of the things too of, like, even if he didn't necessarily use it to his advantage, he was still around it and complicit in it because he didn't report it, which I get, like, you want to report on your own team, but it's like it's a team cheating scandal. He was on the team.
Yeah.
He can't just, like, shirk any of the responsibility for it. You go down as a team.
Yeah.
303 is Mangum's batting average, which sounds about right. It has been fun to watch. It's a little worrisome because for a guy like him to make it in the MLB, he has to hit at such a high level because he has no power.
Yeah.
So it's like his margin for error is so small.
Yeah.
But props to him.
He does also, I will say, he does bring his defense is very good.
Yeah.
When we talk about center field, I don't think he's playing center field. I could be wrong. But talk about outfielders with range. I think he moves around, but he's got very good range for an outfielder.
For sure.
And then just his speed on the bases. He does bring a lot. He does need to stick around that 300-plus mark. Like, he probably cannot drop below because of his lack of power. But
because, I mean, his OPS is only 746, which is above league average. But, like, for a guy hitting above 300, it's like...
he's hitting all singles, basically.
Yeah, correct. I mean, his slugging is... he's hitting 310, his slugging is 401. But very impressive. I know he's a state legend, a state favorite. So I'm kind of happy for y'all that y'all get those moments. And for him, I mean, he's like...
29, 28?
He's 29. Yep, he's 29.
It's almost like I've been, like, keeping up with him, like,
every year.
Like, yeah. So, Mangum does always reach base. You want to move on to the next division?
Yeah, we're going to move on to the NL. The NL East, Phillies are up by 0.5 over the Mets. The Mets have really fallen off. They had like a 2-week stretch. I think they had a stretch where they went 3-14, and it allowed the Phillies to hop them.
And the majority of those losses were the Braves, right?
They lost 5 of 7 of those were to the Braves. We swept them, and then we split a 4-game series.
Okay.
We played them, and then we had a weekend series against someone else, and then we played them to start the next week in a 4-game series.
Okay.
So we went 5-7 against them, which is pretty fun. It's about the only fun moments we've had this season as a Braves fan. This is an interesting Philly team because for the past couple years they play in a hitter-friendly ballpark, and they've been driven by their offense. This year their offense hasn't been great. But Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler has been headlining a really good pitching staff that has kind of carried this team to the top of this division. I mean, they do. Bryce Harper's still on the team, though he's been hurt this year. Kyle Schwarber's had a great year. They're not a terrible hitting team. I'm just saying they're not necessarily carried by their hitting as they have the past couple years. This is the most contested division. I mean, I said already they have a 0.5 game lead, and the Mets have been playing better after their big slide. They're 6-4 in their last 10, or 7-3. So they've kind of righted the ship. This should be a battle down the stretch. I will now address the elephant in the room that we all picked the Braves to win this division.
Yep.
And it's just been an from a top to bottom.
We should have kept Tucker on the phone for this part.
Yeah, organizational malpractice from the Braves. From Snitker still being the manager. I get he's a lifer. I get he's a Braves legend. To some of the moves made in the offseason, to the ownership not ponying up even just a little bit more money to fill obvious holes, to player regression, to a couple big injuries. This is, unlike last year, this is not the fault of injuries. We are just not good. I'm just saying there has been a couple key ones. I don't think our hitting coach is any good. Our pitching coach is actually very good. Rick Kranitz, thank you very much. But yeah, just a couple of big injuries to the pitching staff. Spencer Schwellenbach going down, AJ Smith-Shawver going down. The hitting has just been pitiful. Pitiful. We're one of the worst hitting teams in the league, despite having really good hitters on our team. I mean, Acuna's been great since coming back from injury. Matt Olson's put up good numbers, but besides that, it's just been not pretty. And it's really, really frustrating to watch. I think we'll have a decent organizational overhaul this offseason, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens during the offseason. That's all I'm holding on to because we suck.
Yeah.
We suck. In a year where we're hosting the All-Star Game, too, which really hurts.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As not a Braves fan, it has been, I kind of didn't realize how good. So y'all won the World Series in 2021, and then you won 100 games each in the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So after the World Series in 2021, you let a lot of guys walk.
We let one big guy walk.
Dansby Swanson walked.
No, Freddie walked that year.
Oh, when did Dansby walk?
2022.
Oh, okay. So Freddie walked after the World Series in 21, which was tough, but you got lucky in finding Matt Olson, right?
We got smart. We made a good trade.
Sorry, you got smart. That wasn't like I wasn't trying to, that was not a dig. You got smart.
Yeah.
Made a good trade. Got Matt Olson, who turned into another all-star
He's had all-star
level
appearances
first
for the
baseman.
Braves. Yeah.
So, and then you let Dansby Swanson walk at shortstop, goes to the Cubs, and then won another 100 games.
Yes, correct.
And then since then,
that year we had the best offense in MLB history by multiple categories.
Like batting average, home runs.
Like slugging, OPS. We tied the record for home runs. Like we were unbelievable.
Yeah. And then since then, you've had Acuna. Acuna's had injuries, but then you've had Austin Riley, you've had Olson, you've had Albies, you've had like a core group of like 6 guys, 7 guys, 8 guys that like.
I would say you're looking at a core group of 6 guys. That is Acuna, who's still playing well, Olson, who's still playing well, Austin Riley, who's playing not worth the money he's getting, Michael Harris, who's been putrid in center field. First couple years of his career had an OPS above 800. This year it's high 500s.
Yeah.
Ozzie Albies has been an all-star before. He's currently hitting low 600 OPS-wise. Marcell Ozuna is the other guy at DH who I should throw in Sean Murphy is our catcher as well.
Yeah.
And he's been good this season.
So that's a core group of like 7 guys who were members of a 100-win team.
Yeah, all those guys were here for 2023. Maybe all for 2022 as well. I don't know exactly when we acquired Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy's first year might have been 2023.
Yeah. But it's just like I didn't realize that. And so I kind of, in my brain, it was like, y'all won the World Series in 21, and then you lost Swanson, you lost Freeman, and then you just kind of didn't refill that, and now you've been bad. But I forgot you had the 200-win seasons, and then after that, for really, you don't know why, you're just bad now.
Yeah. It's pretty frustrating because it's like exactly that. It's like I don't really know why a couple of these players have regressed, but they have, and now we have to. Last year, you could convince yourself it was kind of a fluke season, right? Now you have to try and find other options because it's clear this group of guys is not going to get the job done.
Yeah. Well, is it that, or do you think it's clear this group of guys is not going to get the job done under this head coach or this manager? Sorry, because it's...
So it's a multiple thing, and I basically just kind of talked about one of Tucker's questions, how hopeful am I that this core... I think the very new... Well, it's just the core in my eyes have changed. The core is Acuna, Sean Murphy. So on the offense side, Acuna, Sean Murphy, Olson. I'm still throwing Riley in there. I think he's shown signs that he can still be a good hitter. And then Drake Baldwin, who's a rookie catcher this year, right? I think guys like Michael Harris, still very young. I think there's hope for him. I don't think he's a guy we can rely on currently. I personally would send him down for the rest of the year to the minors and try and get it right. Ozzie's a guy that we have a $6 million or a $7 million club option on him at the end of the offseason, and if we don't pick it up, we have to pay him $4 million. And he's been so bad that I legitimately think he's not worth the $3 million difference, and that we can find better options, right? So yeah, I'm not very hopeful that this core can win it. And then on the pitching side, your core is looking like Spencer Schwellenbach, Spencer Strider, AJ Smith-Shawver, Chris Sale, I guess, though he's older, so like, young core, not necessarily as much. That's the annoying thing. Like, pieces are there, but the pieces surrounding them have been so putrid that it doesn't matter, right? I mean, Tucker said that Acuna's been the 3rd best player in this world, and
This world, but not other.
yeah, this world. In the world. And it just doesn't matter because
They
like
just
everyone
can't
else
get
is
there.
so bad. The bottom of the lineup is terrible.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a hard reset this offseason, not a teardown, but a hard reset. I do think a new manager will help. But it's looking pretty bleak right now, and it's just hard to go into game after game and just kind of have your offense score 1 or 2 runs, basically.
Yeah. How old is Acuna? 25?
26, 27, I believe.
Okay. You said earlier today like you wouldn't even consider that in his prime.
No, prime's like 28 for baseball. I mean, he's like right there.
27.
27, yeah.
Yeah.
He's approaching 28. So he basically is squarely in his prime, or like just not squarely. He's just starting his prime.
Yeah.
So there's no point in trading him. I will not hear.
That's what it was. Earlier, Jack was talking about we were prepping for the show, and he was on Twitter, and he was like, I have to get off Twitter because everyone is saying, or all these tweets saying we should trade Acuna.
It's not Braves fans. It's like MLB Now, MLB Network, like segments. Like, should the Braves trade Acuna? And it's like,
Yeah,
you don't trade a top 3 player in the world.
correct.
You don't do that.
Yeah. Not
So-
when you have a roster around him that won 100 games 2 years ago. It's just something is wrong. Something is off.
And currently his deal is very, very, like,
team friendly.
it's not going to show on here, but he's making like $12 million this year or something for what he's doing.
And then baseball, that's like insanely cheap.
Yeah, you should be making 30 plus. Like, that's
Yeah.
what his value is.
Yeah.
So it's just frustrating. I'll get back onto the topic of the segment, but it's pretty poor. That actually they're preying on their downfall.
Yeah, MLB Network prays
It's
every day for
crazy.
Acuna.
It is crazy.
To go,
crazy,
I guess,
crazy.
like to a big,
yeah.
like a Yankees or a Dodgers or a.
They don't like the. It sounds like I'm playing the victim, but like it legitimately seems like MLB Network doesn't like us.
Yeah.
And it's also weird because it seems like they don't like Acuna until they talk about him getting traded, and then it's like, oh, he's so good, like
Yeah.
he needs to go somewhere else, and it's so
They
frustrating.
need him to play for a bigger brand. It helps them out.
But like Atlanta is a big baseball brand. Is the weird thing.
Is that
We're top 5, I would say.
I will not speak to that because I do not know. But yeah, it's tough for us. We all picked the Braves, and
It doesn't look good.
It did
We can
not.
move on now.
after that brief stint.
I now,
Also, I think it's funny that I thought this was gonna be like a 45-minute show.
It never
We're
is. It never
an
is.
hour 20 in, and we haven't even got to soccer.
okay, I was gonna say I thought it was gonna be a 45-minute to an hour show, and then when I suggested Tucker calling, which was a very good addition to the segment, I'm very
Absolutely.
glad we did it. But I knew that was gonna greatly extend the length of that
Yeah,
segment.
because me and him could talk about Mississippi State sports for like we just did an hour.
Correct.
There's a video of me and him. We're in band together, and we're in the stands, and the camera, like my mom recorded it on TV, pans to us, and me and him are kind of standing there, arms crossed, and it's my favorite video ever because we're kind of like standing, like we're close together because we're like the band is tucked in there, and we're kind of standing there watching the football game, and one of us just like starts like pointing and like explaining, and it's so funny because we're just sitting there.
Y'all could yap forever about.
We
state
were just
sports.
like, yeah, so I think the safety there was just kind of out of position. So if he just like, it was just so fun. Anyway, I missed the band days, missed Tucker. He's moved, but it's great to have him on the show. Let's keep moving. Sorry.
Yeah, I get to talk about my younger brother's team now, who I believe is in the chat. He at least was earlier. The Cubs are leading the NL Central by I believe 4-ish games. So
Yep.
pretty good. They've been playing well. Kyle Tucker's been great. I feel like Peter Crow Armstrong has kind of been a revelation this season. He's up and coming young star, plays great defense in center field, makes highlights every day, gets big hits. He's kind of one of the media darlings right now. He's been very good. Suzuki has also been very good. And Michael Busch had a 3-homer game on July 4th, which is the Cubs' third 3-homer game in franchise history. And the other 2 were also both on July 4th.
Wow.
So I thought it was pretty funny. They beat the team there. They set a franchise record on July 4th. They hit 8 home runs. It was fun to watch.
Were they all using torpedo bats?
I think for July 4th, the MLB shipped in some juice balls. Not gonna lie, because like balls were flying out that day. Because it's on. It's like July 4th is like baseball day. Like
Yeah.
Games are on all day. They were all free, so they were like, let's get offensive
that's cool.
explosion product out there. But they hit a lot of home runs. So good to them. That is who I had winning.
Yeah.
That can run with a couple, solid pitchers. I believe Creed. You can answer this. Did Kyle still get hurt earlier in the season? Yeah, he's gonna have him. Yeah, how's the pitching staff looking, Creed? Because I think Kyle Steele maybe got hurt. But yeah, you had the Brewers winning, who I believe
had
are
the
in
Brewers.
second.
They are. Oh, I just opened the wrong tab. They are in second. They're behind by like four games.
Mm-hmm.
JP had the Pirates. It does not look so good. They are 15 and a
He
half
kind of
games
knew that was a bad take.
behind. Yeah, yeah.
Talking to him in the moment. I mean, he still made the take, so fault on him. It's a terrible take, JP.
Yeah.
But there was a little tongue-in-cheek there when he was making that take.
So there's two big name cruises, right? O'Neill Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz, right?
Yes.
Which one is the one that is playing center field now?
The Pirates.
The O'Neill Cruz.
Yes.
Okay, that's tough because apparently it's not going well.
Yeah,
for the Pirates.
Some people think they may trade him this offseason. Or, this trade deadline, because he has some value.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the chat? I want to see if Creed answered real quick.
He is not.
Come on, Creed. You're selling me. But yeah, it's been a good season for them. It's pretty fun when the Cubs are good at baseball because Wrigley's a good environment. They have a good fan base. As opposed to like when the Brewers are winning this division. No disrespect to the Brewers, but it just doesn't hit the same.
I'm not a Brewers fan. You're not disrespecting me.
Yeah. Well, I was pointing to the Brewers logo on the screen, I guess.
This is the division I got dogged on because one of your biggest fan, Clifton.
I apparently am no longer.
Yeah, I don't know who his biggest.
We'll have to ask him
his
again.
favorite is. He dogged on me for not. The Cubs is the only baseball game, Major League Baseball game I've been to. I've been to a Cubs game. Went there in like 2012, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 2014, somewhere in there, early 2010s. And I did not pick them to win, and Clifton clowned me. Right now, it's close. I mean, 4 games at this point. I mean, honestly, there are still 4 teams, 7 games. Like, there's still 4.
Yeah, there's 4 teams in it. The Cardinals have been surprisingly good to me this season. I thought they would be pretty downright bad, and they've not been there above 500, so shout out to them. But I'm feeling good about the Cubs, just the way they're playing, and I think they have the most talented roster. So I think that'll carry through. But we can move on to the NL West, and let's check the chat one more time and see if Creed got back to me.
Come on, let's go.
Good, but a couple injuries. Shoto is out. Yeah, okay.
Shoto was out for a while, and Talion
Jameson Tyone.
out for 15-day injured list, but could be worse. Some weak relievers.
It helps you play in not the best offensive division if it comes to not as good pitching. Because there's not the most feared hitters are not residing in the NL Central, so that helps a little bit. But yeah, we can move on to the last division, the NL West, your Padres division.
Yep.
We all picked the Dodgers to win this division, and they have an 8-game lead right now. It was close. The division was kind of deadlocked for the first couple months of the season, but they've played well to close the first half. It's been interesting because their pitching staff has been so depleted by injuries. Guys like Shohei haven't even pitched, or he's pitched a couple times recently, but he's not even made a full start. He'll start a game and pitch 1 inning or 2 innings.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts has a freaking 708 OPS, which is insane for him. Freddie Freeman's been bad recently, but they're just so deep and so talented.
Even with the injuries?
They just absorb whatever hit, and they keep rolling. I mean, look, they're 56-34. They're 22 games above 500. They're 7-3 in their last 10.
Tied for the best record in the MLB with Detroit.
Correct. In probably one of the better divisions.
Yeah.
And they just keep rolling. I hate them. I hate them, but it is very impressive.
Yeah.
So
at one point, they had 5 starting pitchers out.
Yeah, which they rolled into the season with 9 or 10 legit options at starting pitching. It was what are you going to do with all of them? And then it was well, you were just going to wait for a bunch of them to get hurt, and then you were going to be good.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw, congrats. He got his 3,000th K in his career,
that the other night.
which is such a historic and just high benchmark and achievement. So shout out to him for that. He was committed to play at Texas A&M. He never got there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he just went straight out of high school. But he's from Texas. He's from the Dallas area.
It must just be because I'm friends with you and you're an A&M guy. Maybe if I had a Longhorns friend, it would be different. But I feel like A&M has their finger in more players' lives than anybody.
I mean, that probably is fair. You just hear it a lot from me.
I swear that at least a third of the coaches, you're oh, former Aggie, or every player.
I do think our network is very big, and I'm
Yeah.
also big into recruiting. So even I feel like I've brought it for Jalen Waddle was gonna come to A&M at one point and then flipped.
Yeah, it was
because he's from Houston.
Yeah.
But that's what part of it is. Texas is just such an elite talent pool for young athletes that it just
A&M
it
is
puts
gonna
them
have
in
a
good
chance
spot.
with all of them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot of guys who you're oh, he was committed to A&M.
Mhm.
This 5-star he would like it was us and this other school, which is where he plays now, or like this NFL player. Oh yeah, like we thought we. It's just like you just have your fingers like.
And it's not all sunshine and
who's
roses.
the
Most of
NFL
those guys
coach?
leave us and
Is
get
the
better.
Detroit Lions coach
Dan Campbell.
Dan
played,
Campbell's an A&M guy.
Linebacker, no, tight end to A&M, sorry, and also just got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the university.
Yeah, it's just like
So shout out to Dan Campbell. Love the
I think
guy.
I need more friends in other SEC schools because right now it's my state friends and then you as an A&M guy. That's it.
Yeah. This close anyway. I mean, like, Andrew McBride is a Gators guy, but
Nah, he's a state guy and then a Gators
True.
guy. I would
That's
say.
probably
You're
true.
A&M and then state, unfortunately.
true. Not
Brings
unfortunately for me.
Brings
but-
diversity to the show.
Correct. Yeah, the show's better for it. Do you want to say anything about your Padres because this is their division, or
It's been tough. I've been like on there, on Twitter, reading everyone's comments and stuff, and people are pretty frustrated. I think with Fernando Tatis, given his talent, people kind of expected a little bit more from him this season, and it's been a very hot and cold. I think the Padres have just been a very hot and cold team this season,
I feel like that's true.
which is unfortunate given that they could be good or should be good. At least, and part of that is playing in the NL West. It's a hard division to stay hot in, because you're playing the Dodgers and then you're turning around and playing the Giants. But I will say it's been really exciting as far as like this season is not over, but part of me is already like, yeah, but next year Tatis comes back, Machado comes back, Cronenworth is back healthy. I believe Cronenworth started the season hurt or has been
Sure.
hurt part of the season. And then you've got Jackson Merrill, who just, I believe, signed a 10-year deal.
Yes,
really
correct.
young guy in the outfield who's been playing really well. And then you've got other guys who just kind of came out of nowhere and have been playing well, like Gavin Sheets. It's been pretty exciting. How old is Merrill?
He's 22, so he's
Yeah.
very young.
What you surprised by something over there?
He doesn't have the most aura.
No, he's good. It's
Just a bad headshot. He looks a lot better in person on the field.
yeah, and he plays pretty well in the field. So part of me is already like, yeah, but next year is our chance, and this year is definitely not over. We could still very easily make a wild card spot, but the reality is we probably lose to the Dodgers or we probably lose to the Mets or the Phillies. Like, it's a very frustrating. Like, if you think about it in tiers, like, it's very frustrating being in the A tier of MLB teams.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that, and I'm sure the NBA is, like, as an NBA fan,
That's on me. That's on me. It's
good?
done.
The reality is that, like, as a fan of a team that's not a part of that upper tier, the reality is that you're probably going to lose a 6 or 5 or 7 game series to one of the really good teams.
I would push back a little bit, actually.
Really.
Because the frustrating thing about baseball is when you're one of the top tier teams, but baseball postseason is all about getting hot.
That's
So if you
true.
can be one of those A
That's
or
true.
B team, now it's frustrating because it often is not you. I get that, but there is a lot of hope if you can start playing your best ball at the right time. Think
Yeah.
about the Braves in 2021. We were hovering around 500 for most of the season. Then Acuna goes down, and we think the season's over. We make a couple of fringe signings. Those guys take us on a run, and we get hot, and then suddenly we're World Series champions.
Yeah.
So
That's fair. There definitely is like you just got to get hot. But I don't know. I think I would rather be like dominant and then not have to rely on getting hot. But I don't know.
no, I agree, but it's also then Braves 2022, 2023. We are the dominant teams. We win over 100 games, and we can't even get out of the first round of the playoffs, and that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
There's a give and take. I do
Yeah.
get your point of like, it's so fun to be a dominant team during the regular season because winning 100 games is a blast, and
Yeah.
you just beat up on everyone. But there's pros and cons.
All right. Well, let's just plan on getting hot then. I think that'd be nice.
That would be nice, since the one issue is you can't ever plan on it. That'd be so sick if you're
Yeah,
just like, we're gonna save our best ball till right now.
Yeah, just pencil me in for being hot. I don't know, like October, like that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just tread water till then, and then boom.
Is that it? Is that
That's
the
it for
entire MLB?
baseball, yeah.
All right,
Unless you want to add anything. It was a quick little recap, probably a hectic little recap.
Necessarily quick and funnily hectic.
Yeah. It's been a fun season. I'm probably not as big of a MLB guy as I used to be, but I always enjoy following along. Probably following along other teams a little more this year since the Braves are so bad. But yeah. We can go to our last segment, talking about the Gold Cup final tonight. And realistically, though, the U.S. men's national team situation as a whole, as we are just under a year out from the World Cup starting, and we are hosting. And people have said over and over again, this is our most talented generation. And so just a lot of stakes are on the line as we are hosting with a talented group of players. Hold on, give me just 1 second. So tonight we played Mexico in the Gold Cup finals. The Gold Cup is against teams that are all in CONCACAF.
Yes, CONCACAF.
Bang, CONCACAF. I don't know why I always mess that up.
What did you call it, CONCACAF earlier?
Yeah, every time I do.
So
So it's a tournament we always play in, but I will say it's not the most talented federation. We're not playing in the South American Federation. We're not in Europe playing the big boys,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of one of the first points I want to make is we've made the finals of the Gold Cup, and one of our center backs, Tim Ream, after that basically tried to come on air, and he had a quote that was basically like, everyone wrote us off. Everyone was like, this team sucks. They're not very good, like before we started, and now we're in the finals. Like, what are they going to say now, right? Congrats, y'all made the finals for the U.S. in this federation and kind of this iteration of the team. That's a bare minimum. I'll go through the FIFA world rankings of all the teams we've played so far. So basically, FIFA just ranks all the countries in the world from best to worst. In our pool was Trinidad and Tobago. They're ranked 100th in the world. Sanders, how many countries are in the world?
162.
Correct. So
Is that right?
I don't actually know, but you're close. I was gonna let you roll with it.
Oh, then we'll just cut out the part where we're not sure.
Yeah.
162.
So and 100th, we played Saudi Arabia, who's 58th, and then we played Haiti, who's 83rd. Right. For reference, we're 16th, and actually I think that's a little high, but that's where we are ranked right now. And then in the quarterfinals, we played Costa Rica, who's 54th. In the semifinals, we played Guatemala, who's 106th. And we honestly have not looked very good in large chunks of these games playing these teams, right? So, yes, we've made it, and that's good, but it's really not that impressive. Now, we play Mexico tonight, and they're 17th in the world, right? And so this could be a big statement win. But to get on air and, like, kind of call out the haters or whatever because you've done this thing that's really not that impressive is just pretty misguided. It's just frustrating, honestly. I feel like a large part of this kind of tenure of this group of players has just been, and coaches, has just kind of been like a disconnect with the fans of just like what we want / just like, I don't know, just a lot of, it just feels like you're talking to a lot of bratty people or like people that get their feelings hurt pretty easily, right? I do want to say, going into the Gold Cup, we are missing a lot of our key players, right? Christian Pulisic is a name you probably recognize, Sanders.
Yes.
He said he needed a break after a long season at AC Milan, and so he didn't join, which there was a lot of backlash over that. Weston McKennie and Tim Weah both couldn't come because the Club World Cup is going on right now, and their team was in it, so they couldn't get off. Same with Gio Reyna. Anthony Robinson, who's probably our best player or our most key player, couldn't make it because he's rehabbing, I believe, a knee injury. Serginho Dest is pretty recently off of an ACL injury, so he didn't make it. Yunus Musa didn't come. He started last World Cup because of personal reasons. And then Fullerin Balogun, one of our best strikers, couldn't come either because he's been hurt. So it is this weird thing of like, we're missing a lot of guys. And so to make it without those guys is actually kind of impressive, but also it doesn't really matter in terms of looking ahead to the next World Cup because this is nowhere near the same team, right?
Nor the same level of competition. Correct.
And that's one of the big worries with this group is how much do they really care. We've talked all about how they're talented, but they just seem a little soft as a group at times. I will push back on the hate that Christian Pulisic got for sitting out because he's one guy that has constantly showed up in the biggest moments, scoring against Mexico in finals like this. Big goal in last year's World Cup to get us through the group stage, put his balls on the line in 2022.
3 years ago. Yeah. Last year. 3 years.
I say last year. Last World Cup.
Yes.
Last World Cup. So he's a guy like I expect to come through. If he thinks he needs a break, I'll give him that. I feel like he's earned it. I also will say, pre-Gold Cup, and I'm not doing this. This is not the. I'm not laying out this information the best way possible, I guess. But right, we've been in the Gold Cup. Right before the Gold Cup, we played 2 friendlies matches. So they just don't mean anything, but like we're just getting practice as a team, basically, gearing up for the next World Cup. We played Switzerland, and we played Turkey. Switzerland is 20th in the nation according to FIFA, and Turkey is 27th. So a lot better competition. And so we lost 4-0 to Switzerland and 2-1 to Turkey. And that's really the litmus test for World Cup. I don't care about the Gold Cup, right? I don't care how we perform in the Gold Cup. These are the type of games we have to show up and perform well in and make statements, and that's our litmus test for where we are.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear we're not up to standard. And yes, we're missing a lot of guys, but this is supposed to be our most talented generation, and we can't put out these good performances. And also, Pulisic offered to come to these 2 games because to him, these are the ones that mattered, gearing up for the World Cup. And our coach, Poch, basically was just no, if you're not going for the whole thing, we don't want you. And it's this is why, these are the games that matter, and we can't perform in those. And so that's why, going back to Tim Ream's comment about, what are they going to say now? It's yeah, you beat up on all the little patsies and CONCACAF, but you can't beat the big dogs. And so, why do we care as fans? And you have not looked good doing it. You're running out MLS players that aren't good, that make constant mistakes, and you're squeaking by these bad teams, and then you're going to try and talk shit. And we've not even played Mexico yet. We've not even played the one other good team in CONCACAF. I'm not even sure if we're a good team at this point, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's just really frustrating to have this group that was highly touted, and we have guys playing internationally, right, for a good chunk of our guys play internationally for the first time ever. Typically our couple best guys wouldn't have played internationally. Everyone else played MLS. We're undeniably more talented than we've ever been, but we just can't get our crap together to get ready. And to go to what Sven is saying in chat, our German State fan, that nobody takes the soccer team seriously, right? I completely agree, because we've not done what it takes to get to that point, because we can't get our own crap together. We can't even present ourselves as a united front to try and make noise, because we're too busy fighting with ourselves about players sitting out, and then the coach takes shots at them, and then former players take shots at them, and then they feel like they have to take shots back. And it's just a bunch of infighting, and then when we go and play the games, we just get trounced. But then everyone wants to make excuses and point blame. And so I think that's why it's really frustrating is when we left 2022 and we made the round of 16 and lost to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands coach basically was we knew they weren't good enough to beat us. And it was that's probably true. But it's we were so young, right? Everyone's coming back. We got places to go. And then players stagnate. Players make bad moves. We have bad coaching decisions. Players get called up poorly. We have weird, fantasies about MLS players being good, that they just aren't going to be good. And so there's just a lack of chemistry within the federation. And now we're going to go probably get grouped in our own World Cup. And by grouped, I mean we're probably not going to make it out of the group stage.
Yeah.
And realistically, as a big soccer guy and a lover of the U.S. men's national team, I'm not expecting to win the whole thing. I know that's unrealistic, right? I just want good performances on the pitch. I want to represent our country well, and we can't even do that. And I think that's just really frustrating. So we have about a year to get our crap together, and I don't really expect it to happen at this point. But it's really going to suck if we can't put up a good performance in our own World Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have anything you want to add or any clarifying questions you want to ask, because I just kind of ranted and word vomited there for 7-8 minutes.
No, so the U.S. men's national team has been bad historically, correct?
Bad to average. I mean, we've had a couple good runs.
We missed the World Cup in 2018, is that right?
That was the low. We missed the World Cup in 2018. All we had to do was, I believe, tie Trinidad and Tobago, and we couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
And
then there were concerns when it got announced that we were hosting the 2026 World Cup. People were like, well, thank goodness. Because the way it works is if you host the World Cup, you're guaranteed to host, right?
Yes.
And so people were like, well, thank goodness we're hosting, because at least now we're guaranteed a spot. Top 64 teams make it, and we're sitting at 16th. So we're safely in. We're not as bad as we were in 2018.
The rankings don't work like that necessarily, because you play games. You have to go through qualifying, and you play games, and you get 3 points for a win and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But since we host, we're automatically in.
Yeah, but we're good enough to be in. Are we one of the top 64 teams?
Yes. Even if I said earlier, I don't really think our ranking of 16 is accurate. If we have our full strength group, I think we'd be able to qualify.
Yeah. Okay.
Because also we're in a weaker group, and you play qualifying against your own group, right? If we had to try and qualify in Europe, I don't think we're making it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to qualify in Europe. So
we have to qualify against these other CONCACAF teams?
Yeah, we would basically play the same teams we're playing in the Gold Cup.
Okay. So we are not in the same low we were in 2018. But I mean, I worked at a summer camp in 2021, and I worked with a huge soccer guy, and I remember talking with him like for an hour, standing in line to go into the cafeteria to eat, and he was just like, yeah, listing all these young guys that had just played in the 2018 World Cup and the 2020 Olympics maybe, or the 2021 Olympics. Yeah, because it was that summer was the Summer Olympics, so they were playing in the Olympics because soccer's
Probably, yeah.
So he's just talking about like the future of the U.S. men's national team and how exciting it was, and I was just like, sick, all right, and then and it's just like no excitement from there on around the national team, and now kind of hearing why. It's kind of embarrassing to be a fan or to be a supporter. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no good publicity around it, really. We do have guys that are performing better abroad than we've ever seen, right, as I've said. But there's been no payoff to it. There's no reflection. We don't see that success translate to the national team. And so then you have to start asking the question, why is that? Is that an organizational thing and a coaching thing, or is that just the players don't bring the same passion that they need to, which is what the older players are trying to say. And that's what I kind of don't know if I agree with, right? So it's pretty frustrating in that regard. And I don't know, it's just weird, man. It's really frustrating to see, and it's just like we're all part of the same country, and to see older players fighting with current players, and not saying that current players haven't made mistakes or haven't said things they shouldn't say, right? But just like back up your own guys. Y'all's playing days are done.
Yeah.
Be supportive, right? Critique. Give constructive criticism when necessary, but to go on podcasts and say all these things just like is not helpful. So and the last thing I'll say, and we can try and wrap it up because I could talk about this for a long time and like lay out everything I think what was wrong, but that's just not helpful for this segment. We'll
do that when we preview the World Cup.
Sure, we don't develop talent well in America.
Yeah,
it's very pay to win in America in soccer. If you don't have money, you're not going to get good development. You're not going to go to all these camps and stuff. You don't really play. It's not the country sport, so you don't play it like at the park and stuff like growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
I really do think playing small side soccer early on is huge for development of technical abilities, first touch, being able to play fast, vision, and stuff like that. So playing even indoors, 7v7 or something like that as a young kid is very helpful instead of pushing them onto the big field as soon as possible. So there's a lot of issues from development to coaching to I do think some of our players have legitimate issues in growing up that they really needed to do between last World Cup and this World Cup that they didn't do, to injuries, to all this stuff. But with that being said, Dosa 0, let's beat the crap out of Mexico tonight. Let's win another Gold Cup, because as much as I do think it's kind of a whatever trophy, it's fun to win it every single time, and it's not fun to lose to Mexico.
Yeah.
So let's get the job done tonight with a pretty depleted squad.
Yeah.
And then Tim Ream, if you want to try and say something, maybe I'll listen, but not now.
Yeah. Sven gave a good example. He said the U.S. has MLS, and then after that it's all amateurs. I don't know if that's correct. I believe
We have one other league. We have the
the
USL.
USL, which I was just looking up. The USL is also another professional league, but it is not the same. We do not have the same quantity y'all have. He pointed out that Germany they have 82,000 paid coaches for soccer under 18 years.
Yeah.
That's insane that they're paying 82,000. But I guess if you think about like 8U baseball coaches, like that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you are right, Sven. We are not structured to be as good as a Germany or an England or a Spain or a Portugal, but I at least want us to be able to maximize what we have and get the best out of it.
Yeah.
And slowly look to build up and close the gap in terms of development and stuff like that to the standard of Germany and Argentina and Brazil and the best teams in the world. But what's frustrating now is it's pretty clear to me that we are not maximizing what we have, right? I just want to get the most out of what we currently have, and we're not doing that. I'm not trying to say that I'm looking to go into next World Cup, and if everything went well, win it and beat Germany and beat Argentina and beat Brazil. Maybe, hey, any given day we beat one of those teams in the round of 16 and then lose in the round of 8, like best case scenario. But I don't even think we're going to do that at this point because we can't play good soccer.
Yeah.
So that's what's frustrating.
All right. I think that
I think that's it. I can get off my soapbox now.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to watch tonight. So I'm scared. I'm actually very nervous to watch tonight, realistically. But yeah,
it's also, does soccer have the most action, like active? Okay, I'm trying to think about how to explain this. So if you think about football, it's 60 minutes of time,
Yes.
right? And so while soccer may last shorter, you have to be locked in for a longer period of time. You got to be locked in for the full 90 minutes. Whereas in football, you're locked in for 60.
really
basketball-
full 100 with extra time.
Yeah. In baseball, it's 40 or 48. Not baseball. In basketball, it's 40 or 48. Baseball, you've got, in reality, the game is 3 hours, but 45 minutes of that is breaks in between innings, pitching changes, walk-ups. Like, as far as, like, wind up to pitch, to hit, to field, like, it's probably less than soccer. So it's kind of stressful to be like 90 minutes, like on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, and even soccer too. Like there are breaks, like when the ball goes out of bounds and stuff. But like people will play fast out of timeouts. So it's not really, or like out of a fast break. Not out of fast break. Sorry, out of a throw in to kind of force a fast break. So you really don't even get much of a break there. You maybe will get one when they're setting up a free kick after a foul or something. But it really is pretty nonstop action, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah,
so
but it
I
also
agree.
means that I imagine that you're going to be pretty emotionally like exhausted after 90 minutes in a Gold Cup final.
I'll be very happy or very sad. Really, probably very happy or very frustrated. Because it's just this is not where we should be. We've just grossly mishandled the last 4 years, and now we have to pay for it. So we can wrap up the show, though. Thanks for joining, anyone that did. Thanks to the people in the live chat. This was easily the most active live chat we've had, and that was a ton of fun. It added a fun element to this show.
Sven has this little thing next to his name.
He's our top
number
fan now,
one.
which is kind of fire.
It resets every live stream. So like the more you talk, like you little thing. So that was kind of cool. So shout out Sven for being very active as a Mississippi State fan, and then also when we talk about soccer,
giving us an foreign
outsider's
perspective
opinion. Yes,
of why
outsider's
the U.S. is lacking, which I completely agree with him with what he said. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
And
shout out Tucker, shout out Creed for helping you out with the baseball stuff.
Yep.
It was a really cool show.
It was fun to take a little break from football, as much as I love football. But we will be back for y'all Wednesday with more football, previewing the AFC South, and JP should be back, and that'll be a ton of fun. So we look forward to seeing you.